my parents did a really wonderful job, but one of the things that bugged me as a kid was no one had satisfying answers to the biggest questions about the universe and sort of why someone should do anything, right? Answers about the meaning of life. And it just occurred to me while listening to Jordan Peterson ramble about something that even as a child, or especially as a child, perhaps, we're likely to be in a situation where someone's telling us what to do. A parent or authority figure is saying, quiet down, or do your homework, or go to bed. And so it seems pretty natural to, especially if you don't want to do the thing, to maybe question, well, why? I want to stay up. I don't want to take a bath. I want to keep playing. Why? And if someone doesn't have a satisfying ultimate meaning of life and understanding of the world, then what use is something like, because I said so, right? It's like, oh, because I said so, because I'm gonna punish you if you don't. I mean, is that the best we can hope for? In my opinion, somewhat yes and somewhat no, and I will try to give you the tools to have some basis for claims about life and meaning. But really the whole point of this reality, goodness, and work framework is that your mind is on the job, that you're not living a life in Neverland, in an imaginary place, but that you're pretty connected with reality. And it may actually be most suitable for the child as well, that you're not unrelatably heady, right? You can give simple answers like, well, because you might get a bellyache, or, because when you grow up, you want to be able to, get a job and be paid reasonably well and have some free time so that you can play. And, because it'll hurt if you touch that hot thing. It'll be very painful, so it can be very straightforward. And again, when I'm recommending that you use this framework of reality, goodness, and work, I'm not telling you to be complicated. It's a framework that tells you to lean towards reality and lean towards goodness and lean towards work and figure out what those things mean to you. But as I move into a period in my life where I pursue what I find most meaningful, which is having children, I wonder a lot about raising children, and sort of in the background of my mind. And so when I'm hearing Jordan Peterson talk about the big whys for doing things, I remember that as a kid, I'm being told to say please and thank you, being told to do my homework, and I wonder if I never felt like I got an adequate answer to the question why. My father very intentionally didn't want to instill any sort of bias in terms of religion or something along those lines. So if I had questions along those lines, he would ask, well, what do you think? And he would encourage me to think through things. And I think if you asked him, he would say he's still not sure if that was the best approach or not. I'm not sure. I think there's upsides and downsides to everything. Maybe he instilled a habit of questioning that has led to both suffering and a lot of advantage and ability. I don't think we can or should attempt to achieve things, especially as complex as raising a human being, without anything that feels uncomfortable, right? Or, there's upsides and downsides to everything, so it's sort of more of a game of maybe choosing the best option, and no way of doing things perfectly. Although I suppose if you have a very clear set of goals and a very clear set of your options, then you can have a somewhat clear way of evaluating the options, and then the downsides can be seen as not downsides at all. You just see that you choose the best option at any crossroad. Sure, I don't think we have enough time and foresight to go to that depth in every situation. But we do have the opportunity for ourselves and for our children and whoever we're having conversations with to have our own relationship with reality and goodness and work. I spent a lot of time thinking about what should I do. I'm writing a book that I believe will carry that exact title, and I believe the answer is raise good children, which I don't think I ever would have suspected when I was younger. But after nearly 40 years of interaction with the sort of materialized world, coming out of a place that for 20 or more years was effectively theoretical and academic, right? Trying to solve that question from a sort of universal, impersonal, objective space, knowing very quickly, very young, that the universe doesn't give answers to morality and goodness. The universe is indifferent. I still spent another 15 years digging there, looking, trying to find a sort of math test level of certainty, correct answer to what should I do, what is this all about. And ultimately, I was explaining this to my uncle last month in Hilton Head. A little difficult to summarize, but roughly, if you go infinitely far into the future, everything's arguably meaningless. There's virtually nothing. It's not even that there's no human beings. There's no consciousness. There's virtually no differentiation between any two parts of space, right? So you can't even carry information in the universe anymore. Mattering would be pretty bizarre if you thought that mattering could exist at that point. So, okay, looking infinitely far into the future, we find that permanence is basically impossible. At the other end of this temporal spectrum, we see that in any given moment, we have an experience that feels like we have autonomy, free will, choice to some extent, right? I can continue talking, I can go in and do my shopping, I can turn my car off, or I can go drive somewhere. It feels like we have autonomy. And as that child academic looking for the theoretical, universal sort of truth, I was missing a more fundamental truth, and I think this is true of a lot of academics, and there's good reason, but again, when you're trying to solve the full question, you don't have to if you're an academic. But for the sake of this conversation, I want something that's actually grounded in reality, not just rules and laws that only stand in an abstract space. We don't live in an abstract space. We live here, where we have feelings and emotions and preferences. We feel pain, we feel preference, we feel pain and discomfort. Sometimes it's not totally clear what we'd prefer. I'm not looking for total clarity, right? We can tell, I'm a little uncomfortable. I'd like if it was cooler right now. It's a little hot in this car. Fine, what should you do? It's not super complicated, right? Yes, does it potentially disintegrate to nothing? You shouldn't do anything if you zoom all the way into the future and say nothing matters, right? Because that's where you can say nothing matters. Eventually nothing matters. But right now, very simply, it matters. There are things that matter. You feel preference, you feel discomfort, you feel pain, you feel impetus, right? And okay, so we've pointed out these two ends of the spectrum that, yeah, in infinite future time, arguably nothing, or maybe nothing matters. Here in any given moment, there's all kinds of things, right? You want to watch your TV show. You wish that your dead relative was still alive. You want to go, eat some delicious dessert. You wish that your friend would call you back. You have all sorts of wants, right? And then there's potentially things you can do to achieve some of these things, like walk over to the refrigerator, or so on and so forth. And the argument we might make here is, well, eventually none of this matters. And sure. So don't go all the way, right? And what's the answer? I'm not saying live for the day or live for the moment, right? I'm not claiming that here, be in this moment, listen to your whim. That's not it. Because as we start to go and have as much ice cream as we want, we might have a bellyache after, and we can start to grow a slightly more sophisticated relationship with reality, our experience of cause and effect, and develop a more mature sense of what we want, right? Wanting ice cream doesn't become as simple as, I want infinite amounts of ice cream, give it all to me. Now we start to recognize, okay, if I eat too much too fast, I might get some, whatever that's called, and you freeze your mouth, or I might feel uncomfortable if I do this on a regular basis. I might not look and feel the way I'd like to, or it might cost too much money. And we start to have a matured sense of what we want. That's great. That's great. You're growing a whole sophisticated answer to what should you do. What should you do, tempered by what you shouldn't do, things that you should tend towards and things you should avoid. That's great. There's still this pesky question and problem of everything being meaningless when you take it to infinity. And so my point is that the appropriate thing to do when exploring the space of should is we basically take this tree that's growing, right? Let me add one more idea, right? A lot of the balance that we grow into in this maturity of should is, I want something now, but I'll pay the price later, right? A lot of this tree of should is connected to time, and it connects through our lifetime, or maybe it connects further, right? For me, mine very much connects further. It began with infinity, and I struggled with meaninglessness, right? And then I came back and got to know myself and what do I want, and sort of forced myself to care about that. But ultimately, I care about my family line sentience and the ongoing quality of life for as many people as I can possibly affect. I'm not so concerned about whether or not I get to eat ice cream or feel joy in this minute or the next. I am dedicating myself to positively affecting as many people as much as possible into the future. And I guess my claim is that we do this because as this stuff of want, this discomfort and pain, this real subjective experience informs what we should and maybe can do about any given circumstance. It matures into the future, and we should let it mature into the future all the way up until infinity. Not all the way to infinity, it falls short of infinity. It's this sort of asymptotic approach, right? So there's this spectrum of now and the obvious concrete subjective experience of wants and preferences and discomforts and desire. And there's the infinite nothing. But all the way up until we get toward the infinite nothing, I'm here experiencing. Hopefully I get to have kids and they're here experiencing. There's going to be other people experiencing. Even if AI takes over, are they experiencing? I don't know. They're evaluating, right? It's still more than maybe a rock in terms of preferences being met or not, right? So this curve extends beyond the moment. It extends beyond my lifetime. And I can consider that And I don't take it all the way to infinity, because that does become pointless. So there's this sort of asymptote that I sort of exercise across the consideration of time, where now kind of matters the most. The next moment matters a lot. My lifetime matters. My kid's lifetime matters. There's probably going to be humanity for a while, not forever. And then after, humanity maybe gets replaced. And so, okay, well, I don't just care about humanity. I care about sentience and experience. And so, I might be sad. My preference might be that humanity lasts, but if it was all or, if it's not all or nothing, right? Maybe sentience continues, so on and so forth. So there's this sort of asymptotic way of relating to this problem of the meaningless infinite future. Things aren't meaningless because we're not in the infinite future. We have preferences and desires, discomforts and pains right now. So we have shoulds, right? You should go ahead and do the simple things that your mind and body are telling you should do. And then you should learn and mature and grow and reflect, and the sense of what you should and shouldn't do will grow into the future. That's good. That's good. A longer term consideration and outlook is good. And if you start to approach infinity, you don't have to throw it all away. There's sort of this asymptote, because we're also less confident with what's going to happen out there. We're very confident with what's happening right now. It's what is. This moment is this moment. This is pretty clear. It's not obvious what's going to happen infinitely far into the future. We have some pretty strong predictions. It's not as mysterious as some of you wackos might think. But there's a lot of room for some things to go very differently. It's not 100% chance that it's meaningless. Even though everything we know about, entropy and the expansion of the universe and the, points in the direction that eventually nothing matters. I don't want to get into the physics of it right now, but so that's a lot in this video. We've covered anchoring meaning for children who are telling what to do, right? They've got their own compass. They want to stay up and play. They don't want to do their homework, and we're trying to accelerate their growth in meaningful ways because we have a little bit more of a framework and experience, because we've lived a longer timeline and we've matured our sense of what should be done, hopefully based on reality and our sense of goodness. And so we're trying to instill that upon our children and accelerate the maturation of their sense of should, so that when they grow into autonomous individuals, which they will, they're not always going to be within your care and control, that hopefully they have matured into having the best possible framework of reality and goodness and work ethic that they possibly can. All right, let's close it there. This is a long one. Thanks for hanging with me. Again, welcome to ask questions down in the comments. I will read them all and I will respond. Appreciate you.